Hey, how you doing? My name is Ryan, and today I'm fixing every LEGO Marvel character in the Infinity Saga, giving more than 90 minifigures a needed upgrade. So I used to make a series of shorts where I'd try to fix a figure by changing only one piece, and now I'm expanding that concept across my entire LEGO Marvel collection. For each character in the Infinity Saga, I'm picking one minifigure iteration and making one swap to improve it. And for the purposes of this challenge, arms and hands are one piece, hips and legs are one piece, and I'll probably bend the rules at some point during this video. But for each fix I make, I'll also be grading it on a scale from 1 to 10, taking into account if the new piece existed when the figure in question was first released. But with that, let's start with our first character in chronological release order of the movies, not the minifigures, Iron Man. The figure I want to fix is the Mark 6, the damage suit that comes in the Avengers Tower. Again, I'm going off of the release of the films in which the characters appeared in, not the sets. Now with the damaged Mark 6 suit, I'm going to replace the arms with that of the Silver Centurion, and I'll give this fix a 5, considering there's already a lot of print on this character, but the lack of arm printing on Iron Man armor can be frustrating, especially since after so many minifigures and with a $500 Marvel set, you'd expect this Iron Man, out of all of them, to have some arm printing on it. The next character to appear in the MCU is Pepper Potts, and I'm picking the minifigure from the Iron Man 3 wave. For the fix, I'm gonna swap out those arms for John Hammond from Jurassic Park. That way, Pepper's shirt has some short sleeves, which matches her character's look. As for the fix, I'll give it a 7, as it makes a big difference, but I don't think dual molded arms became as ubiquitous as they are now until around 2014 with the release of the Simpsons LEGO minifigures, whereas this Pepper Potts minifigure came out in 2013. Next up on the list is Phil Coulson, who doesn't have a film minifigure, so I'll have to use the comic version for this fix. That fix being, I'm gonna swap out the legs for Sheriff Not a Robot from the LEGO movie. And I'll give this fix an 8, as the legs already existed, releasing in 2014, and the added belt and coattails add so much little detail here to make this figure feel more complete. But if I had my choice, I'd swap out the torso for this custom one that I made with an actual shield badge on it, and that makes an even bigger difference. Figure number 4 is Happy Hogan, a character I've tackled before, but I'm doing a different fix this time, swapping out the face for that of a LexCorp employee to give him a goatee. I'll give this fix a 7, as the goatee piece already existed by the time this figure came out, and even though you need to make more than one change to make this figure look like Happy Hogan, the face swap does help. How about figure number 5, the villain of the first Iron Man movie, Obadiah Stane. For this fix, I'm swapping out those blank legs for the legs from the Harry Potter CMF2 minifigure for a little bit of printing here. And I'll give this fix a 5, as there aren't really any dark blue suited minifigures with leg printing, plus this exact leg print did not come out until 1 year after Obadiah Stane did in 2022. Next up on the list is Nick Fury, and I'm picking his minifigure from the Helicarrier set. And for this fix, I'm swapping out his blank black arms with that from Darth Vader, and I'll give this fix an 8, as I think they match the look of the figure overall and add some additional detail. But it should be noted that the print on Darth Vader's arms didn't come out until years after Nick Fury did. Moving up the list, my next character is Hulk, and I'm picking the Bruce Banner minifigure from the Infinity Saga wave to fix. And that fix is one I've done before. It's swapping out the hair with that from the Infinity War Doctor Strange minifigure from 2018. I've always thought the hair pieces on the Bruce Banner minifigures make the character look a bit too young, and this swap gives him some nice salt and pepper. And I'll give this fix an 8 out of 10, because it helps the character look the right age and the piece already existed in 2018. But how about War Machine? And this figure comes from the Iron Man 2 Armory set. I'm going to replace the odd looking face mask here, just the mask, with the one that came out in the War Machine mech suit set. And it's really impressive how much this face shield improves the figure's proportions, so I'll give this fix a 7, because while the fix itself is good, the piece in question didn't come out until a couple years after the Iron Man Armory set. How about our next character, Black Widow? I'm picking her version from the 2024 Avengers Tower set. I've always thought the Black Widow faces looked a bit too generic, so I'm going to swap this one out with the LEGO Ideas Tron Legacy Quara head. Now, this Natasha has some uniqueness from all the other stern female figures. I'm giving this fix a 9, because a character as awesome as Black Widow in a $500 Avengers Tower set definitely deserves a more unique face print. And the Tron set that includes the Quara minifigure came out before the Avengers Tower set, so it could have been possible for LEGO to bring this face print out of retirement for Black Widow. But how about character number 10, Justin Hammer, who does not have an MCU minifigure just yet, so I'll have to rely on his comic book iteration to make this fix. That fix being, I'm going to swap out his spiky brown hair for that from Egon Spangler from the Ghostbusters series. While this swooping hairpiece makes Justin Hammer look a bit more faux suave, I'm only giving this fix a 6. The piece did exist and was even used, albeit in a different color, for the video game, but the suave elements of the hairpiece don't really match the comic book version of Justin Hammer depicted in this minifigure, so I really wish we do get an MCU Hammer minifigure very soon. But how about Iron Man 2's villain, Whiplash? This is a pretty fantastic figure already, but for my fix, I'm going to swap out his hairpiece for that with Severus Snape from the Harry Potter series. And while it does look quite nice, I'm giving this fix a 5 because it's really more about screen accuracy and preference regarding this hairpiece because the figure itself already looks so good. Moving on to the characters from the movie Thor, and next up is the God of Thunder himself. I'm picking his 2024 Age of Ultron remake figure, and those blank black legs have been bothering me ever since I bought the set, so I'm going to swap them out with these Imperial legs from Star Wars. The subtle printing adds so much extra detail to the figure, balancing out the overall design, and I'm giving this figure our first 10 out of 10. Not only does the design work, but this is a ubiquitous piece that was used on 12 minifigures dating back to 2014. I have no idea why this Thor minifigure was not given leg printing, but now it's really easy to give him some with our first 10 out of 10 fix. But how about his brother, the God of Mischief, Loki? I'm picking his 2024 minifigure with the new rubberized cape, and for the fix, I'm going to swap out those blank arms with that from Marvel CMF Series 2 Sylvie. While this Loki already has a great amount of printing already, a little extra bit on the arms is nice, but not necessary, so I'll give this fix a 7 out of 10. Plus, there's something oddly poetic about pulling parts from one Loki to make the other one more complete. Moving on to Hawkeye, who makes his first appearance in the Thor films, I'm picking his 2024 Age of Ultron remake figure, and for the fix, I'm swapping out that generic head with that from his CMF counterpart. It looks so much better and so much closer to actor Jeremy Renner, so I'm giving this fix an 8 out of 10. Because I have to imagine the reason we have not seen this CMF print across all Hawkeye minifigures is because LEGO wants to keep it a bit more exclusive to the CMF version, which is a bit greedy, but understandable. But how about character number 15, Erik Selvig, who only appears in the Avengers Tower set, but I think we can fix this figure by taking his hairpiece and replacing it with the hair from Mr. Incredible. This part already existed and helps age the character appropriately to improve the accuracy, and I'm giving this fix an 8 out of 10. Next up is Captain America, and I'm choosing to fix his Age of Ultron remake figure, and those blank legs have been bothering me for a while, so I'll swap them out with these dark blue-brown boot prints that's been available for a while as a pick-a-brick-wall exclusive, and I think this fix is another 10 out of 10. Why haven't we had a retail Steve Rogers Captain America minifigure with leg printing yet? We've seen Captain Carter with leg printing, we've seen Sam Wilson Captain America with leg printing. It's about time our retail Steve Rogers minifigures get some leg printing, and with this boot print, it's really easy to do so. The next character to fix is the villain of Captain America, Red Skull, and I'm picking his minifigure from the What If Hydra Stomper set. And while the figure does look rather nice overall, I'm going to replace the head with the 2014 Red Skull version, as the angrier face print works really well for Red Skull, but I'm giving this fix only a 6 because the more snarky print is fine. This is one of those fixes where it's more of a preference of what you like more. And next up is Agent Maria Hill from the Helicarrier set. A great figure overall, but those blank legs need some work. So I'll swap them out with Jurassic World's ACU guard legs, giving Maria a holster that makes her feel more like an agent. But I'm giving this fix only a 7 out of 10 because the part didn't exist when the minifigure came out. Although, for being included in a $300 giant Marvel set, this Maria Hill should have had some leg printing from the start. Next up is character number 19, the Chitauri. I'm picking the 2012 General minifigure for my fix. The print coverage is rather impressive, but I'll swap out that confusing head print for that of the Chitauri from later on down the Infinity Saga without the mask, as I think the design of the alien head translates better to LEGO minifigures than the mask. I'll give this fix a 7 out of 10, and it makes me wonder if LEGO will ever make a new Chitauri minifigure with an actual mask that can come off to reveal the alien head. And the last figure of Phase 1 is the Taxi Driver. And you could argue this isn't an MCU character, but he was found in an MCU adjacent set, the gift with purchase, so I'm gonna count it here for sake of completeness. While he's entirely a composite of pre-existing pieces, I'm gonna swap out his hair for the hat of Bernie the cab driver to make him look more like a cab driver. And I'm not even gonna score this fix because it doesn't matter. It's the gift with purchase Taxi Driver. I'm just including it because I don't want to comment saying, you forgot the Taxi Driver. Now we move on to Marvel Phase 2, and our first character to fix is the Mandarin. I'm picking the minifigure iteration with the cape and the full garb, and for the fix, I'm swapping out his head for Snake Oiler's head from Speed Racer. While the print on the Mandarin is really nice, I do wish LEGO gave him his sunglasses to complete the movie accurate look. I'll give this fix a 7 out of 10 because it's not a necessity, but a really nice addition using a pre-existing part. Next up is Aldrich Killian, a figure that is in desperate need of an upgrade. I'll swap out his hair for that of Colin Creevey from the Harry Potter series to make a more suave looking Killian. But I'm giving this fix only a 5. Because while the hairpiece does help, there is so much more that needs to be fixed on this figure for it to look like Aldrich Killian. A better fix, for example, with more pieces, is to use the Joker CMF minifigure, replace the hands, head, and hair for a more accurate look in his white suit. In other words, to fix Aldrich Killian, make a new Aldrich Killian. Moving on to character number 22, the Extremis Soldier from Iron Man 3. A really solid print design overall with these red lines on the face and torso, and I'll swap out those blank legs with Cole NRG's legs to continue that red energy pattern and give the legs some nice printing. I'll give this fix an 8 out of 10 because it works rather thematically well, and the piece existed just 1 year before Iron Man 3's wave came out, so I'm sure LEGO had some extra parts on hand. Next up, how about the characters from Captain America, the Winter Soldier? First up is Falcon. I'll use his 2024 Avengers Tower minifigure, which is just fantastic to begin with. There's not much to fix here, but I will swap out those arms for that from the Wizard of Oz Tin Man, just to add a little bit of arm printing here. I'll give the fix a 6 because while the part did come out before the Avengers Tower set, it's in no way a necessity to make this figure look good. It already looks pretty fantastic. Sticking with the Avengers Tower set, our next character is Alexander Pierce, and this is a fix I've done before, swapped out that too evil looking head with Gilderoy Lockhart from Harry Potter. This new face print really captures the essence of Pierce, and I'll give this fix an 8 out of 10. Alexander Pierce is a conniving character, but he's also careful as to not be so overtly and outwardly evil until the very end of the movie. And speaking of somewhat evil characters, how about the Winter Soldier? I'm picking his first minifigure appearance in the exclusive Polybag set. I'm going to swap out his torso with that from the Civil War variant, as it seems like the Polybag uses the film style face as an afterthought in relation to the style of the torso. The more playful look of the torso matches more so the comic Bucky Barnes than the film version, so I'll give this fix an 8 out of 10, as the swap does give Winter Soldier a bit more menace and a bit more screen accuracy. Next up is the Armored Shield Agents from the Avengers Tower set. Was I expecting these characters to have leg printing? No. Am I going to swap out the blank legs for Jurassic World's ACU guard to give them leg printing? Yes. I'll give this fix an 8 out of 10, as Shield Agents look so good with holsters, and the part existed by the time the $500 Avengers Tower set was released. I get why LEGO opted out of leg printing for these characters. I mean, they're just kind of unnamed grunts. but hey, don't unnamed grunts deserve some love too? Moving away from Earth and into space, we have the bunch of a-holes themselves, the Guardians of the Galaxy. I'll start off with Star-Lord, his 2024 Milano minifigure. This is a pretty fantastic print overall, but I do have a rather clever fix in mind. I'm going to replace his hairpiece with his mask, as it's the only thing this figure is missing. So I'll give this fix a 7 out of 10. Great figure overall, but I'm not sure why we didn't get the helmet in the Milano set. How about our next character, the deadliest woman in the galaxy, Gamora, again from the newest Milano set. Another fantastic figure with not much to change here, so I'll swap out her hands for dark red hands. And I'll give this fix a 5 out of 10, as the change is so minimal because nearly every part in this figure is new. Next up, it's Drax, the Destroyer from the Milano set, with every part being new. But if I had my way, I'd swap out that head with the original Drax head, which has a bit more of a stern expression. I'll give this fix a 7 out of 10, as it's another minor change. But for me, I like the more deadpan and serious depiction of Drax in the first Guardians movie. Next on the list is character number 30, Rocket Raccoon, in his 2024 Ravager outfit. And again, this figure already looks really good, so for the fix, I kinda have to bend the rules a bit. I'm gonna add 2 1x1 brown plates to the bottom of Rocket's feet. And I'll go ahead and give this fix a 5 out of 10 already, but I really miss the dual molded legs from the original Rocket Raccoon. And because there's no brown-footed version of these short dark red legs, I have to go with the next best option. This change adds some nice color separation for such a small figure, even if it makes the character a touch taller. Speaking of taller, how about our next character, Groot from the Benatar set? I'm going to replace those legs with these long dark tan legs from the Avatar set to give Groot some extra height. Now, I'm gonna give this fix a 4, as you could argue this lessens Groot's impact by removing the leg print. But considering LEGO has never really nailed the scale of Groot before, either making him way too big in his first appearance as a build or way too small as a minifigure, I think these long tan legs are a great option to give Groot a bit more height without going full on build mode. Then again, we're going from leg printing to no leg printing, so that's why it's a 4. Next up is Yondu Udanta, one of my favorite Marvel figures ever released with one of the most accurate face prints ever made. For my fix, I'm going to replace those blank arms with the Ravager Rocket polybag arms, to give Yondu's arms a nice print that matches the aesthetic of the overall figure. But I'll give this fix only a 6 because dang, this is another one of those times where LEGO really nailed it on the first go around and there's not much room to improve. On the flip side, there's plenty to be done with our next character, Nebula, whose first appearance in 2014 is sorely lacking some leg printing. So I'll swap them out with that from the CMF Series 22 Space Creature. And while the added print on the legs does help quite a bit, I think more work needs to be done for this figure to make it feel more complete, like some arm printing for example. So I'll give this fix only a 7 out of 10. And it makes me wonder if LEGO will ever revisit the more villainous Nebula minifigure for a future set. Speaking of villain, how about Ronan the Accuser from the Infinity Saga wave? A really solid print overall, but that hood could use some work. I'm gonna replace it with the original helmet mold from 2014. While the print work on the torso, legs, and head are more in line with LEGO Marvel's more modern design aesthetic, the imposing nature of the original custom helmet cannot be beat in my opinion. I'm giving this fix an 8 out of 10, as the helmet adds so much for Ronan's stature and silhouette. Next on the list is the Nova Corps figure, with a really solid custom helmet mold, but the legs could use some work. I'll swap them out with the CMF Kendo fighter legs to have some nice printing here. I'll give this fix a 6 out of 10, as the subtle print is enough to not be distracting. However, the piece didn't exist until a few years after the Nova Corps figure came out. How about another mindless drone character, the Sakaran? A really strange minifigure overall, but let's replace those legs with the ones from the DCEU Justice League Batman. The texturing pattern is a pretty close match and adds so much needed print work to otherwise blank legs. So I'll give this fix a 7 out of 10 because I get it. It's the Sakaran. It's no wonder why LEGO didn't go all out here with this minifigure. It's not a Comic-Con exclusive after all. Unlike our next character to fix, the Collector, who was the first MCU minifigure to be a Comic-Con exclusive. And for my fix, I'm swapping out his arms for that from the Pro Surfer CMF minifigure, and I'm only going to do a render here as to not damage the torso of a Comic-Con figure. I'll give this fix an 8 out of 10 because why didn't LEGO give a Comic-Con exclusive arm printing? Moving on to the characters from Avengers Age of Ultron, it's Baron Strucker, and I'll replace those blank legs with LEGO Ninjago's Cece's legs. And the subtle leg print here adds quite a bit of detail, and the print did exist around the time of Age of Ultron, so I'll give this fix an 8 out of 10. But it should be known that the print only could be found on dark tan legs until around 2020. So while the design existed way back when, having that design on sand blue legs didn't come around until well after Baron Strucker was released. How about our next character, the Hydra Agent? I'm picking the version from 2024's Age of Ultron diorama set. A pretty cool design overall, but the blank light gray legs really detract from the overall figure. I'll swap them out with Angler's legs from Ninjago, and again, a little leg print goes a long way to make this character feel more imposing and militaristic. I'll give this fix an 8 out of 10, as the piece in question was made back in 2017. But I'm sure it's relatively cheaper to bring a design back out of retirement than it is to draw up a whole new leg print. Moving on to character number 40, the Iron Legion. I'm picking the minifigure remake from 2024. The print work here is fantastic, and this is a great use of the non-moving Iron Man helmet. But the arms could use a little bit of extra love, so I'm going to swap them out with Goliath's arms from the Marvel CMF Series 2 wave. I'll give this fix a 7 out of 10 because, yeah, I wouldn't really expect arm printing on a character in a set so cheap, but the added detail does look quite nice, even if it makes the Iron Legion figure a bit busy design-wise. Next up is Helen Cho from the Avengers Tower set. A pretty basic figure, but gets the point across who the character is. I'll swap out those blank legs with Fleur de Couleurs legs from Harry Potter for a sleek dual molded look. I'll give this fix an 8 out of 10 because this simple effective figure needed just a little bit more to make it all that much better, especially from a piece that already existed. But how about a character sorely in need of a minifigure remake? It's Quicksilver, whose exclusive face and torso do look quite good, but those black legs are a sore spot. I'll swap them out with these Star Wars Imperial legs found on a multitude of figures. If this was truly going to be the only Quicksilver minifigure we ever got, why didn't it have leg printing? I'll give this fix an 8 out of 10 because something so simple as subtle leg printing makes all the difference here with Quicksilver. Next up is a character we've seen multiple times, Scarlet Witch. I'm picking the CMF iteration as it's the most complete design we have of the character, but I do want to swap out that head with that from Bellatrix Lestrange from Harry Potter, as this new look gives Wanda a much more villainous vibe. Now, you could argue that the CMF version comes from WandaVision, whereas the more evil Scarlet Witch is found in Multiverse of Madness, but the Multiverse of Madness character we got in the Sanctum Sanctorum set is pretty minimal in terms of printing compared to the CMF one, and per my rules, I only have one part to fix per character, so I'm gonna pick the one that has the more fleshed out design to begin with. That being said, I'm giving this fix a 9 out of 10 as I love the way it looks, and I love finally having an evil Scarlet Witch that looks quite menacing. Next up on the list is Vision, and I'm picking his minifigure from Civil War. It was a pretty tough call as to what to replace to make this minifigure better, because the entire design is really quite fantastic, and the remake figure in the Avengers Tower set has an entirely new color scheme, so you really can't swap parts there, except for the cape. So I'll give the old Vision figure the new Vision cape. And while this semi-transparent design looks incredible on Vision, I'm only giving this fix a 7 out of 10. The part didn't exist until 2024, and if I'm being honest, the old Vision figure already looks so incredible there's not much to fix there. A tough one for sure, but it gets even tougher with Ultron, another character that is head to toe really fantastic looking, great leg printing, great torso printing, but if I have to make one change, and I kinda have to here, I'm gonna swap out that head with one in transparent red. Now, I'm gonna give this fix only a 5, as unless LEGO makes tall legs in flat silver with leg printing, it'll be really tough to beat this original Ultron minifigure. That being said, it'll be very easy for the Avengers to beat our next character, the Ultron Sentry Bots. They're grunts with torso and leg prints, so I'll swap out one arm with the cyborg cannon found in the LEGO DCEU Justice League sets. I'll give this fix a 6 out of 10, as not every Ultron bot should have an arm cannon, but at least one should to feel more threatening. Next up on the list is character number 47, Ant-Man, and I'll pick his original minifigure iteration from 2015. A really solid look overall, but let's swap out those arms for that of Percival Graves from the Harry Potter CMF Series 1 minifigure. The Ant-Man minifigure suits have good coverage typically, so a bit of arm printing certainly helps take this one over the top. I'll give this fix a 7 out of 10, however, because you could argue that same arm printing detracts a bit from the overall figure. But how about Yellow Jacket? A fine figure overall, but the appendages in the back are really bulky, so to make this fix, I kinda have to bend the rules again. I'm going to replace his entire neck bracket and back appendages with that from Ultra Agent Spyclops, and I'll give this fix a 6 out of 10, as I'm sure if LEGO were to redo Yellow Jacket now, they'd use these thinner appendages. Spyclops is certainly closer in look to Yellow Jacket, and the figure was released around the same year, so wait, why didn't LEGO use these thinner appendages for Yellow Jacket? You know what, I'm bumping this fix up to a 7 out of 10. How about Hank Pym? And I'm choosing to fix the MCU version as opposed to the comic version, even though he only wore the suit in flashbacks from the first movie. And for this fix, I'm swapping out his blank arms for the Pro Surfer CMF ones. The look and color matches perfectly to the Hank Pym suit, but I can't give this fix a 10 out of 10 because the Pro Surfer minifigure did not exist at the time of the Hank Pym release. And now for our final figure of Phase 2, she only appears in the post-credit scene, it's Wasp. I'm picking her minifigure from the Avengers Tower set, as it already looks pretty fantastic, but those blank legs could use some work. I'll swap them out with these Thanos minifigure legs, and this fix, with the print colors and matching perfectly, I'm giving a 10 out of 10. Bearing in mind this Wasp figure came out in a $500 set, and the part in question already existed, why didn't LEGO give Wasp some much needed leg printing? As you can see, it would have done wonders for this minifigure. And with that, we move on to Phase 3 of the MCU, and even though we're technically 2/3 of the way through the Infinity Saga, we're just about halfway through the characters I'm going to fix in this video. Phase 3 is loaded. So let's get right to it with Crossbones, whose blank legs could use a fix, so I'll swap them out with the Death Trooper legs from Star Wars to give Crossbones a bit more of a militaristic look. I'll give this fix an 8 out of 10. I really wanted to find a better skull mask, but the legs also needed a fix. I also figured that swapping out the dark gray legs with black legs with printing could give Crossbones a more menacing look, even with that goofier face print. But how about our next character, Sharon Carter, and once again, swap out those blank legs with that of the ACU Trooper from Jurassic World. Just like Maria Hill, agents look better with holsters, and this part existed before the 2016 Civil War line. I'm giving this fix an 8 out of 10. Sharon Carter may be an underdeveloped and confusing character, but that does not mean her figure needs to be underdeveloped too. Moving on to Spider-Man, first seen in Captain America Civil War, I'm picking his Iron Spider suit to fix. And I'm going to, again, bend the rules here, swapping out his neck bracket with the opposable appendages with that from the comic Iron Spider figure. I really don't know why LEGO chose these more bulky arms over the slimmer, more accurate ones. I'm giving this fix a 9 out of 10, as I really think LEGO nailed the design of the Iron Spider appendages back in 2015. But what about Black Panther, who also made his first appearance in Captain America Civil War? I'm using his blue glow appearance from the Black Panther wave, and for the fix, I'm swapping out those blank legs for that from Sam Flynn from the Tron set. And if this is what a Black Panther minifigure with leg printing looks like, count me in. I love the look of the glow across all the figure. It feels much more complete of a design, and the part came out the same year as the first LEGO Black Panther wave of sets. So I'm giving this fix an 8 out of 10. Moving on to the characters from Doctor Strange, we have Doctor Strange himself. I'm picking his Multiverse of Madness figure to fix, and for this fix, I'm swapping out his head with that from the Infinity War Doctor Strange. This is more of a preference of expression, so I'm giving this fix only a 7 out of 10. I just happen to prefer more serious Doctor Stranges over goofier ones. But how about an even more serious sorcerer? It's Mordo. I'm picking his Multiverse of Madness figure found in the Sanctum Sanctorum set, and I'm swapping out those blank legs for that of Vicky Vale from Batman. There aren't a ton of printed legs on sand green, but this one is subtle enough to match Mordo, and the piece existed when the Sanctum module released in 2022. I'm giving this fix an 8 out of 10. I have to imagine when they released the Sanctum Sanctorum set, with the amount of figures they included in it, they couldn't give each one leg printing, but with one simple fix, Mordo now can. How about Wong? I'm picking his minifigure from the Bricktober set, and subtle fix here, I'm going to swap out his arms for that of the CMFC captain, with a little bit of gold printing on the wrist. I'm giving this fix an 8 out of 10, as the Bricktober figures were incredibly detailed to begin with and rather exclusive, so a little bit of arm printing goes a long way. Next up is the Ancient One, and I could do a face swap here, but I'm actually going to add the hood from Lady Jessica from the Dune set. This added piece does give the Ancient One her more mysterious look, but dang, this was an expensive fix relative to the amount it actually improves the figure. I'm only giving it a 6 out of 10, and the hood piece itself in gold didn't exist until 2024 when the Dune set came out. Moving on to the characters from Guardians Volume 2, next up is Mantis. I've never thought that LEGO nailed the face design for this character. I've always thought the facial expressions looked too serious and not innocent and naive like Mantis should be, so I'm going to swap out that face for that of Lex Murphy from Jurassic Park. I think this fix does give Mantis those big wide eyes that the character needs, but I'm giving the fix a 6 out of 10, as you could argue it makes Mantis look more like a child. Next character on the list is Aisha, who, if I'm being honest, doesn't really look like her character from Guardians Volume 2. I have to imagine this is based more so on concept design than the final version of the character. So, bad news is, I might need to cheat here to make this fix the best it can be. The good news is, I get to justify the expensive fix for the Ancient One. I'm going to move the head and hair from Aisha over to the body of Lady Jessica. This figure should have been all gold from the start, and while my fix does look rather good, I'll give it a 7 out of 10, I think this might be a figure I need to make a custom torso for in the future. But what about Taserface though? I think this fix is much easier and much more traditional. Take those blank red arms, swap them out with that of Ravager Rocket Raccoon arms. A good chunk of the Ravager figures are already really fantastic, albeit without arm printing, so the extra touch of details on the arms does help, but I'm giving it only a 6 out of 10, as it's not really necessary. Moving on to the characters from Spider-Man Homecoming, next up is Ned, and I'm taking those blank legs and swapping them out with the Harry Potter CMF2 legs to give him a belt and some shoes. I'll give this fix a 7 out of 10 because making Ned's blank legs into jeans really elevates this figure quite a bit, and while the part did not exist at the time of this figure's release, the jean print is pretty cheap to get now for anyone who wants to improve a bunch of figures really easily. Keeping with Peter Parker's friends, it's Michelle Jones, or MJ, and I'm using her figure from No Way Home. This fix I think is pretty clever. Swap out her torso with Maria Hill's casual torso from the Far From Home sets. This basic design does simplify the figure a little bit, but the black jacket and white shirt are really close to the outfit that MJ wears at the start of No Way Home. So I'll give this fix a 7 out of 10 points for film accuracy. Moving on to the villain of Homecoming, it's the Vulture, and I'm picking his remake figure over his original. The fix is pretty easy, swap out his legs with these Volcano Explorer legs, and I'll give this fix an 8 out of 10 as the leg print is just the cherry on top for this already impressive figure and build. And the part already existed at the time of the figure's release, so bonus points for that. How about the Shocker though? A rather simple figure, but easy fix here. Swap out those legs with Tony's Bricktober legs with the subtle camo print. Now, there aren't many casual pants prints in LEGO, so the subtle camouflage does feel the most casual for a civilian-clothed Shocker figure. I'll give this fix a 7 out of 10 as the part didn't exist yet at the time of the Shocker's release, and the Shocker is such a minor character in the set and kind of in the film, so I can see why LEGO opted out for leg printing. Speaking of minor characters, it's time for Bank Robber number 1. And for this fix, it's a mouthful. I'm swapping out the legs for Space Police 3 Officer 7 legs from 2009. It's oddly impressive how much this switch makes a difference for the figure, some pockets, some knee pads, and this robber feels a bit more prepared to rob a bank. I'll give this fix a 9 out of 10. Next on the list is his partner in crime, Bank Robber number 2. Similar switch here, swapping out those legs with Dagobah Luke's legs, another great addition to a more generic figure. It's really great how just a few black lines on the legs can make all the difference. And while both Bank Robber fixes are great, I'm putting this one 1 point behind the previous one because this leg print didn't come out until 1 year after the Homecoming sets. Next on the list are the characters from Thor Ragnarok, and first up is Valkyrie, and I'm picking her figure from the Endgame battle set. It's really strange only one Valkyrie figure has leg printing, but the light bluish gray variant needs it the most, as the lighter color almost makes the blank legs more obvious. So I'll swap out these legs with that of Excalibur Batman. And Batman's legs here really come in handy, and the part did exist when the Endgame Valkyrie was released. I'll give this fix an 8 out of 10, as the gold matches and so does the armor pattern. But what about Korg? A really great figure from the get-go, and I'll be honest, I almost considered waving the white flag on this figure because there's not much you can fix without making him an entirely different figure like a Big Fig. But there is one thing you can do. I'm going to swap out his shoulder armor piece for that of Munts from Ninjago. I think the look of this armor is a bit more accurate to Korg, and I wanted to break the streak of only doing leg fixes. And while the piece certainly is bulkier than the original figure's armor pattern, it does look more accurate, so I'll give this fix a 6 out of 10. And if I thought Korg was a challenge, get a load of Meek, with really only one piece with printing on it, the rest of it's a build, making this probably the hardest minifigure to fix out of the entire bunch. Here's what I'll do though. I'll replace those feet pieces with a slope 45-degree 2x1 with a 2/3 cutout in dark red. I think this piece swap improves the stability of the character by increasing the surface area on the feet. It's a very minor cosmetic change because, again, only one piece is printed and I'm not going to replace that. But I think this fix is a needed structural change to make Meek a bit easier to pose. How about a more traditional fix? It's Hela. And I'm going to replace those legs with the CMF Series 14 Fly Monsters legs. Even just a small speckling of green on the legs looks fantastic here. It matches the torso, doesn't distract from the top-heavy figure design and the massive helmet, and the piece existed when Hela came out, so I'll give this fix a solid 9 out of 10. What about character number 70, the Grandmaster, whose blank legs certainly are distracting, but I think I have a better fix in mind. I'm going to swap the hairpiece with that of Queer Eye's Tan France's hair. The pompadour style is a fun addition to the Grandmaster and looks much more accurate to the film design. Yes, the part didn't exist until 2021, so if LEGO were to ever make a new Grandmaster figure, I'd recommend this hairpiece. I'm giving this fix a 7 out of 10. To finish out the characters in Thor Ragnarok, we have 3 mindless drone grunt figures. First up is the Sakaran Guard, whose blank legs could use a fix. I'll swap them out with CMF 22's Space Creature legs. The coloring matches, but the design is a bit too blocky to pair with the more mechanical torso. I'll give this fix a 6 out of 10. Next up is the Berserker figure, and to match the aesthetic of Hela, I'm swapping out those legs for the CMF Series 14 Fly Monster legs once again. This same fix works wonders on the Berserker character, subtle but sufficient print coverage. I'm giving this fix a 9 out of 10. And finally, the most recent grunt figure, the Fire Demon from the Surtur set in 2024. This character, like Meek, only has one printed piece and it's a brand new headpiece. What do I fix here? Well, it's actually an addition. I'm going to add the Darth Maul horn piece to the top of this figure. These demons are supposed to have horns similar to Surtur, so this Darth Maul hairpiece gives the head some extra shaping to better match the demon look. I'll give this fix an 8 out of 10 as I'm honestly impressed I came up with a fix for this figure, considering again I thought I was going to have to wave the white flag. Now it's time for the characters from Black Panther, and up first is M'Baku. It's a fix I've done before and I'm doing it again here, swapping out those blank legs with that of Obi-Wan Kenobi. The cloth robes match the aesthetic of the M'Baku costume. I'm giving this fix an 8 out of 10, as the leg design did exist when this figure came out. But okay, enough easy fixes. What about a challenge? What about, in my mind, one of the worst MCU minifigures ever made? It's Shuri from Infinity War. Replace that very inaccurate hairpiece with that of Bumblebee from the DC CMF line. Now Shuri actually resembles the character from Infinity War. It's perfect. But I'm giving this fix a 9 out of 10 because the hairpiece didn't come out until a couple years after the figure did. So it begs the question, why did LEGO choose this hairpiece for Shuri? Well, hear me out. Shuri's hairpiece from the Infinity War minifigure can only be found on one other minifigure, that being Patty from the 2016 Ghostbusters set. I have a hunch that Sony, the company behind the Ghostbusters film, thought that movie was going to be a lot bigger than it actually was. So they pumped a lot of money into the marketing, and toy production to coincide with the film's release. LEGO, in turn, made a new Ghostbusters set with a new Ecto-1 and a bunch of exclusive figures. And again, because of that increased budget, they make a lot of these sets to sell. Fast forward a couple months, the film comes out, it is not a big success, it kind of underperforms at the box office, and now you're LEGO, stuck with a bunch of Ghostbusters sets and having poured a lot of your budget and resources into a new hairpiece that you might never use again. But aha! Black Panther and Infinity War are coming out, and you can use that Patty hairpiece on one of your minifigures. You can't use it on Okoye because, well, she's bald, and you can't use it on Nakia because she has much shorter hair. So, what about Shuri? Now, you can include a rather exclusive hairpiece in an Infinity War set without spending that much money, because you have all the pieces in backstock. Long story short, that's my conspiracy theory why this Shuri minifigure had this hairpiece. Back to the fixes, it's time for Nakia. I'll swap out those legs with the Guardian Ravager legs, and while this figure did need leg printing, I'm only giving this fix a 5 because it is a fool's errand trying to match Wakanda's design and LEGO's interpretation of Wakanda's design with any other figure. It's really not gonna work. That's kind of the case here, so while the color and idea are good, I don't think you'd be able to find a good match for Nakia's legs without designing your own. But what about Okoye? I'll use her figure found in the Hulkbuster set with the gold neck bracket and swapping out those legs with Hank Pym's legs. I think the same issue persists here with the leg printing. I'll give the fix a 6 out of 10 though because it's better for 2 reasons. One, there are more unique prints on black legs than reddish brown to choose from, and 2, Hank Pym's minimal leg print I think matches Okoye a little bit better. It's not great, but it's better. Moving on to the villain of Black Panther, it's Killmonger, and this fix I've had in mind for quite a bit, swapping out those legs with the inverted Spider-Man suit legs. The line work is impeccable and the gold accents just pop. Now, for Killmonger, it's not perfect. I'm only giving the fix a 7 out of 10 because I think the legs are a bit too busy for the torso for it to be a great match, but the elements are sound in principle. So sound, in fact, that even YouTube itself commented how good it looked when I made this fix for Shuri's Black Panther figure. That brings us to figure number 80, the last of the Black Panther characters, it's Claw. Simple swap here, replace those legs with the Harry Potter CMF legs, and this piece is proving more and more helpful as this list goes on. I'll give this fix an 8 out of 10, as not only is the minifigure more film accurate with the color of the pants, but also some added print to separate the block of dark blue helps quite a bit. And that brings us to Infinity War, and it's time to fix our first big fig, Thanos. I'm fixing the Thanos found in the second Endgame Final Battle set, the one that's bald with a smile on his face, and the fix here is quite simple, give him the gauntlet. And with that fix, we finally have a film-accurate bald Thanos with an Infinity Gauntlet. I'm giving this fix a 10 out of 10, it looks fantastic, and if LEGO is to ever make more Infinity War sets, not Endgame sets, I really hope they make a new bald Thanos with a removable helmet. That would be cool. But now let's fix the children of Thanos, and up first is Ebony Maw. I'm picking his original 2018 figure because he has so much more print coverage compared to the Sanctum Sanctorum version. But for the fix, I'm replacing that old face with the new one, and it's certainly a preference for the style of the face, so I'm giving this fix only a 7 out of 10. But for me, the old figure was amazing, and the new head is amazing, so why not have both? Moving on to Corvus Glaive, a rather scary looking minifigure, but the blank legs don't really help here. I'm swapping them out with War Machine's legs, and the figure does become a little bit busy, but I do like the look of the added armor on Corvus's legs, so I'll give this fix a 6 out of 10. But what about Proxima Midnight? Again, rather cool looking figure with an amazing headpiece, but blank legs, so I'll swap them out with the Imperial Star Wars legs, another versatile piece for adding subtle printing on black legs. I'm giving this fix an 8 out of 10, and it makes me wonder, how expensive was it to produce the Imperial black legs at the time of this figure's release in 2018? Because if it was rather cheap, why not include it? And for the fourth and final child of Thanos, it's Cull Obsidian, a really impressive big fig with an exclusive head sculpt, a nice body print, and if I can be completely honest here, when I was writing this video script, I didn't have a fix. When I started filming the video, I still did not have a fix, and it was only about 3 or 4 minutes ago that I thought of one. Replace the arms with that of the Ultimate Green Goblin Big Fig, just to add a little bit of detail with the silver shoulder pad and the arm itself. But in looking at this fix in person, I can barely call it a fix. I have to give this like a 3 out of 10 because I think it makes the figure worse. I think the silver shoulders don't match the print design for Cull Obsidian, and the color of the new arms don't match the head. While I am glad I can say that I have a fix in mind for every character now, I don't need to give up on any of them, I do think this is the worst one out of my entire list. Let's see if I can do any better with the Outrider figures. And for this one, black blank legs, I'm going to swap them out with that from the inverted Spider-Man suit. And I'm rather happy how this fix turned out. I like the added texturing on the legs, and the bit of gold does match the torso, so I'll give this fix an 8 out of 10. With that, we're in the home stretch. The film is Ant-Man and the Wasp, and we only have one character to fix, Ghost. And this is a fix that I've done before. Swap out those blank legs with that from the ATST driver, and I love the way this character turns out. Just that subtle bit of leg printing goes a long way. I'm giving this fix an 8 out of 10. Next on the list is Captain Marvel, and I'm fixing her minifigure iteration from the Hoopty set. It's a fix I've done before, swap out those legs with that from the Iron Spider. This character looks so much more complete. The color palette of red, gold, and blue is extended across the entire figure, and I'm giving this fix a 10 out of 10. But what about Maria Rambeau, a Comic-Con exclusive MCU minifigure? You'd think this fix would be really tough because, well, it's a Comic-Con figure, but it's actually the easiest fix on my entire list. The torso is a pre-existing design from this Resistance pilot from Star Wars, who already has leg printing. Why didn't the Comic-Con figure have the matching leg printing? Look how much more complete Maria Rambeau looks now. I'm giving this fix a 10 out of 10. This is a no-duh situation. Moving on to character number 90, it's the Skrulls. And this is a fix I've done before, swapped out those legs with that from Phastos from the Eternals, to give a much more accurate color scheme for Talos, and a much more alien look than military. I'm giving this fix a 7 out of 10, because the patterning is a bit incongruent with the torso, and the piece didn't exist until a few years after the Skrull minifigure came out. Time for the characters from Spider-Man Far From Home. We have this firefighter, and a rather detailed figure overall, torso printing and leg printing, so I'll swap out those arms with Darth Vader's arms to add a little bit of extra arm printing. I was kind of surprised that this figure had leg printing, like this generic firefighter figure, but then I realized this firefighter outfit has been used for 82 minifigures across 11 years, so they're getting their money's worth out of this leg print for sure. But someone who could totally use some leg printing love is Hydro Man, who, look, was a minifigure intended to be part of a larger character build with that blue skirt piece. But as a figure itself, it can't stand on its own 2 legs. Speaking of which, let's swap out those 2 legs with that from Electro. This figure needs leg printing, but there's not really a water design on LEGO legs. I'll give this fix a 5 out of 10. I was considering using the translucent blue legs from the Blueberry Guitarist from Video, but there's no other elements of translucence on the figure. It would have been really incongruent. But that leaves us with our final figure to fix. It's Mysterio. I'm using his remake found in the No Way Home wave, and I'm swapping out those blank arms with that from Lloyd in the Ninjago movie. There's not really much to fix here, as the figure is already fantastic and has plenty of print coverage, but a little bit of arm printing goes a long way. I'm giving this final fix a 7 out of 10. And with that, every character from the Marvel Infinity Saga has been fixed. It's rather impressive how much one small change can improve a figure overall, but also, it makes sense. Minifigures are abstractions of these characters, using so few pieces to convey their design. So if you swap out the legs, you change almost half of the visual design of the character. And as much as I rank on leg printing, I get it, not every character can have it because LEGO's only given a certain amount of budget per theme, per set. It makes sense. But also, that's what makes fixing these minifigures so much fun. It's really fun to look back at older characters and see what parts are available now to improve and make these really amazing customs. But I would love to know what's your favorite fix I made in the comment section down below, and if you enjoyed this video, I'd be more than happy to make, when it's over, a multiverse saga fixing video like this one. And as always, if you like this video, be sure to subscribe to the channel, and thanks for watching.